The bell tolls, heavy and sonorous, rolling across the frost-laden towers of Camelot, as though the stones themselves shiver at the sound. In the high chamber where shadows cling to the walls like old memories, the crystal of time throbs with imprisoned radiance, its heart burning like a star torn from the heavens. Each pulse of light etches runes upon the stone, fleeting yet eternal, whispering in tongues older than kings. The air reeks of resin smoke and ancient parchment, as though centuries exhale through the cracks in the walls. Merlin stands alone before it, his breath shallow, his eyes dark pools reflecting fragments of fate no mortal was meant to bear. Visions ripple across its surface. Arthur, crowned in fire, his blade lifted against the night. Morgana, wrapped in shadows that drip like oil, her lips curled in triumph. Gwen, pale and broken, her tears falling upon a throne that gleams with ruin. The images bleed into one another like ink upon wet parchment, truth and doom entwined. Behind him, Gaius speaks, his voice a frail lantern in the storm. Merlin, once your hand touches it, the crystal binds you. It will make your soul a servant of its design. But the whisper of destiny is louder than any warning, curling around Merlin's heart with promises of knowledge, with threats of silence. Outside, a raven circles the spire, its cry a jagged cut across the crimson sky. Merlin's hand rises, trembling, as though moved not by will but by inevitability. His fingers brush the surface. The crystal screams. The chamber quakes with a hum that gnaws at the marrow, and time fractures like shattered glass. Light explodes in shards, each fragment a different world. Arthur bleeding upon a battlefield, Morgana's shadow sweeping across kingdoms, Gwen's hands clasped in prayer before a burning pyre. Merlin falls to his knees, gasping, the taste of iron flooding his tongue, his veins aflame with visions too vast to contain. He clutches his chest as though the heart within him no longer beats to his own rhythm. The doors burst open. Arthur strides in, torchlight blazing across his armor, firelight glinting on steel like dawn upon a blade. His voice strikes like thunder. What sorcery is this? What have you done, Merlin? His eyes flicker from the dimmed crystal to the boy he trusts, though doubt sharpens his gaze. Tell me the truth. But truth is a burden Merlin cannot yet speak. He turns, breath ragged, eyes glazed with the weight of futures collapsing upon him. The crystal, spent yet victorious, brands his palm with a burning sigil, a mark that glows like molten gold, refusing to fade. The relic has chosen its keeper. Gaius hurries to Merlin's side, gripping his shoulder, whispering a prayer beneath his breath. Yet Arthur's stare pierces through them both. This magic, he snarls, it reeks of peril. The silence that follows is heavier than iron, filled only by the faint echo of a heartbeat. Not Merlin's, but something deeper, something older, reverberating from the crystal itself. The relic lies dark now, its light quenched, yet its claim cannot be undone. Merlin lowers his head, the sigil burning against his flesh, knowing that the path of destiny has shifted, and that no bond of friendship, no oath of loyalty, will remain untouched by the choice made in this chamber. Beyond the walls, the raven wheels once more above Camelot, its wings slicing the blood-red sky, carrying with it the promise that this was only the beginning of the unraveling. Thunder cracks like the breaking of a world, rolling over the towers of Camelot as rain lashes against stone in ceaseless fury. Each drop strikes the citadel with the weight of whispered curses, as though the sky itself conspires to drown the kingdom in omen. Inside the war council chamber, the air is thick with smoke and damp, the flames of torches bending in the draught as if unwilling to bear witness. Arthur leans over the map table, his moon-steel blade laid across it, its edge catching the restless firelight like a serpent's tongue. His eyes burn with the fire of duty, yet doubt coils beneath the surface, for Merlin's warnings of ruin linger in the silence between each breath. From the shadowed threshold, Morgana watches. Her cloak of shadow-weave trails frost upon the stones, and her breath smokes in the cold that clings to her presence. A faint smile curves her lips, a predator's knowing smile, for she feels the fracture widening, prophecy pulling at loyalty, trust unraveling like old silk. Gwen stands near, her trembling hands clutched around the iron rail, her voice breaking the storm of silence with words shaped by love and mercy. "Arthur," she whispers, the warmth of hearth-fire woven into her plea, "you must hear him. If destiny warns of ruin, then listen, for all our sakes." Yet her words fall into the chasm yawning between them, swallowed by the restless beating of storm and pride. Gaius, older than the wars that shaped the kingdom, lowers his head and mutters of signs that cannot be dismissed. Crows nesting on the battlements, rivers flowing backward as though time itself resists, a child's reflection vanishing from a mirror. His voice trembles, and the chamber chills with his words. Still Arthur, son of Uther, king forged by fire and oath, will not bow to visions. With a snarl, he slams his gauntlet upon the oak, the sound cracking through the chamber like the strike of judgment. No relic, no guard, no cursed prophecy will dictate my crown. His voice shakes the rafters, and the torches gutter as though even flame recoils from his defiance. But far from the chamber, in solitude darkened by storm, Merlin feels the stir of the crystal in his grasp. The relic awakens with a violent hum, its glow spilling across the mark seared into his palm. Pain sears through his veins, light branding itself upon his soul, and he gasps as the chamber's walls dissolve before his eyes. In the visions, Morgana's gaze glimmers with hunger, her eyes fixed not upon Arthur himself, but upon the crown he wears. Her presence bleeds into the future like ink into water, unstoppable, inevitable. Around her, shadows bend like loyal beasts, and kingdoms crumble at her passing. Merlin clutches his chest, torn between silence and sacrifice, for to speak of what he sees may sunder trust forever, yet to withhold it is to abandon Arthur to ruin. The thunder splits the night, and the council chamber falls into uneasy silence. Arthur stands rigid, his knuckles white against the table, while Gwen's tears glimmer like dew upon stone. Morgana lingers in the doorway, her faint smile never faltering, her frost-bound breath curling upward like incense to gods of darker faith. Beyond the walls, the storm rages on, its voice unrelenting, as though the heavens themselves wait to see which oath will shatter first. And in Merlin's palm, the sigil glows like a wound that will never heal, binding him to a fate that sharpens with every heartbeat. The forest exhales like a vast and breathing cathedral, its vaulted boughs tangled in silver mist, its roots twisting deep into earth older than kings. Each step Merlin takes along the hidden path stirs whispers from unseen mouths, voices caught between prayer and warning. Lanterns of starfire sway from skeletal branches, their cold light revealing fragments of stone etched with runes that pulse faintly as he passes. The night is thick with scents, damp moss, the metallic tang of iron in the soil, the fragile sweetness of flowers blooming in darkness. Yet beneath it all lies dread, heavy and unspoken, for the crystal in his satchel beats like a heart not his own, a ceaseless thrum that calls to beasts lurking beyond sight. Eyes flare red among the undergrowth. Claws rake bark. The forest listens, and it waits. From the stones ahead rises a chant, hollow as wind through tombs. The druids emerge, their faces painted with ash, their cloaks stitched with constellations that shimmer faintly in the lantern glow. They do not bow to Merlin. Their knees bend to the sigil upon his palm, the mark seared into him by the crystal of time. Their whispers tremble, reverent and fearful. The keeper of time, cursed to see the unravelling of fates, yet unable to bind them whole. Merlin lowers his gaze, ashamed of their worship, yet burdened by its truth. "I did not choose this path," he murmurs, his voice breaking against the weight of the night. "Nor do I wish to bear it." The eldest druid steps forward, eyes clouded like stormed glass. "Nor does destiny ask what we wish, child." it takes, and it binds. Already Morgana courts the storm that will drown kingdoms. Already the crown upon Arthur's head begins to turn to dust. Only sacrifice beyond blood may hold back the tide. His words cut deeper than any blade, and Merlin feels the crystal stir in reply, the sigil on his hand burning as if to agree. From within folds of midnight cloth, they draw forth a shard of obsidian, etched with prophecy older than parchment, its edges sharp enough to drink light. They place it in Merlin's palm. The stone sears his flesh, and visions crash upon him. Arthur falling beneath a sky torn with fire, his crown shattered at his side, Morgana walking through flame unscathed, her laughter scattering the dying like ash. Every choice carved upon the crystal's light exacts a toll. The druids chant, their voices weaving into the mist like chords of fate. What will you surrender, Merlin, when the hour comes? A crow feather drifts down from the canopy, settling upon his branded hand, black against the glow of the sigil. The omen seals itself with silence. Merlin gasps as the obsidian flares, the shard burning like a coal, and the vision tears him open. Arthur's lifeless body sprawled upon the battlefield, Camelot's banners drowned in mud, Morgana's shadow towering across the ruins. The world flickers, collapsing around him, until only fire remains. He awakens on his knees, the shard scalding in his grasp, the taste of smoke upon his tongue. The druids fade back into mist, their chants lingering like echoes of judgment. Alone in the breathing forest, Merlin clutches the shard to his chest, knowing that fate has laid its hand upon him, and that whatever sacrifice is demanded, it will not come without tearing his soul in two. The dungeons of Camelot groan like the bowels of a dying beast, each drip of water striking stone in cadence with a clock no man dares to name. Shadows cling to the walls as if they fear the flame, and yet the torch Morgana carries bends toward her, as though even fire itself is ensnared by her will. Her cloak trails frost along the floor, a veil of winter across ancient stone, and her eyes gleam with a hunger sharpened by years of exile. She moves with the silence of a serpent, deeper into the labyrinth where the air reeks of rust and forgotten blood. There, beneath layers of dust and secrecy, she finds the chamber sealed in runes scrawled from sacrifice. The carvings writhe as she nears, serpentine shapes slithering across the wall, alive with a will older than Camelot's stones. Her voice rises in forbidden syllables, the incantation like ice cutting through marrow. The chamber quivers. Far above, in the stillness of Merlin's chamber, the crystal of time stirs, thrumming like a beast rattling the bars of its cage. Its light claws at Merlin's marked hand, and he startles, knowing that someone has reached for power best left unclaimed. Yet Morgana does not falter. Her lips curve with triumph, though her voice is cold. At last, the kingdom's heart beats within my grasp. Her words echo, and with them, frost crawls across the runes like veins of winter stone. But she is not alone. From the stairwell comes the faint tremor of a lantern, its light trembling upon the damp walls. Gwen descends, her steps fragile yet resolute, guided by whispers of loyalty stronger than fear. Her lantern casts pale fire upon rusted crowns left to rot and chains that whisper of long-dead kings. Her breath quivers, but when she sees Morgana before the writhing runes, her voice hardens with resolve. "Morgana," Gwen calls, though her tone shakes. "You will not tear Camelot apart for your vengeance. I will not allow it." Morgana turns slowly, the torch in her hand flaring once before dimming, as if reluctant to leave her. Her smile is thin as a blade. Sweet Gwen, still clinging to illusions. Do you not see? Thrones are nothing but shadows waiting to be devoured. Arthur's reign is a candle against the storm, and storms do not bow to candles. Fear rattles Gwen's breath, but she lifts her lantern higher, its light pressing against the living runes. You are wrong. Camelot is more than a crown. It is the bond of its people, their hope. And hope does not bow to shadows. The light strikes the runes, igniting them in a sudden blaze. The chamber convulses, stone groaning as if the earth itself awakens in pain. From the wall erupts a vision, jagged and merciless. A battlefield drowned in ash, Arthur's crown dissolving into smoke, Camelot's banners shriveled to nothing. Gwen stumbles back, tears burning her eyes, while Morgana laughs, her voice reverberating like a dirge. The torch in Morgana's hand extinguishes, leaving only the hollow flame of Gwen's lantern. Dripping water counts the moments between heartbeats, and the darkness swells, alive, pressing in as though eager to claim another witness. Gwen stands trembling, her light small, her resolve tested, as Morgana's laughter fades into silence that feels too heavy, too knowing. In that silence, destiny waits, sharpened and patient, and the dungeon breathes like a tomb about to close. A mirror cracks in silence, not of glass, but of sky itself, dawn bleeding red across the ramparts, its fragile light swallowed whole by storm clouds roiling at the horizon. The citadel shudders beneath that omen, its stones heavy with dread. In the armory, Arthur binds himself in steel, each clasp and buckle echoing like the tolling of a war drum. His breath rises in the chill, steady, resolute. His eyes burn not with fear, but with defiance. The path of kings is written, he believes, by will alone. Gaius lingers nearby, shadow draped over his shoulders like mourning cloth. His voice is soft, cracked by years of secrets. The crystal warns of ruin, sire. Cursed is the hand that defies its prophecy. Yet Arthur does not yield. He fastens his gauntlet with finality, the scent of oiled steel and leather thick in the air. Then let the curse strike me, not my people, he replies, his tone iron-forged. The chamber falls silent but for the rasp of blade against sheath, a sound that feels like farewell. In the great hall, banners ripple as though unseen hands tug them toward oblivion. Torchlight flickers, casting spectres across the walls. Merlin stands apart, shadows claiming his face, the hollow weight of visions carved into his eyes. The sigil upon his palm burns whenever Arthur nears, a brand that shrieks of destiny's cruelty. He longs to speak, to cry out against the march to ruin, yet silence binds him tighter than chains. His voice would wound more deeply than any blade, and so he holds it, even as his soul trembles. Gwen steps forward, her gown brushing stone, her hand finding Arthur's. Her fingers are cold as river ice, yet her voice quivers with warmth, stitched with both love and despair. Arthur, do not mistake courage for sacrifice. The world has already asked too much of you. He cups her cheek, gentle despite the armor encasing him. And yet it will ask more, he answers, his gaze a fragile flame that refuses to be smothered. Outside, the valley answers with horns, their call rising like a dirge. Ravens wheel above the battlements, their cries mingling with the low thunder rolling over the hills. From a high tower, Morgana watches, her cloak unfurling as though it were wings spun of shadow. The stormlight clings to her lips, curved in anticipation of destiny's unraveling. Her eyes gleam with hunger, for she knows every oath Arthur swears may yet serve her cause. Arthur leads his knights toward the gates. Shields polished like mirrors catch the torchlight, reflecting broken images, faces noble, faces monstrous, all fragments of a future that splinters beneath prophecy's weight. The air quakes with the rhythm of their march, a heartbeat of defiance against the storm. Merlin follows behind, the crystal's hum rattling in his grasp, unbearable, alive. It sings of despair, of futures collapsing into ash, and for the briefest heartbeat, he sees every step leading only to ruin. Yet still he follows, for silence may prove costlier than prophecy, and love more fragile than steel. His hand burns with the sigil's fire, his chest heavy with truths unspoken, and as the gates of Camelot groan open to the storm, The first raven dives across the crimson sky, a black arrow loosed from the bow of fate itself. A mirror of thunder splits the heavens, jagged and merciless, casting the battlefield in fleeting shards of light. Rain hisses against charred earth, dripping into wounds carved into soil and flesh alike. Spears lie broken like the ribs of fallen giants, banners drowned in mud, their colors bled away to nothing. The clash of steel has faded into echoes, yet the air still trembles with the memory of war. In this ruin, two figures remain unbroken, Arthur and Morgana, shadows of fire and frost locked in destiny's gaze. Morgana's eyes gleam like obsidian polished in sorrow, her voice coiling with venom as she lifts her hands to the storm. "You will bleed as every king has bled," she hisses, "for the curse of betrayed queens binds tighter than any chain." Her words spill like poison into the air, and lightning bends toward her call. Arthur raises his moon-steel blade, its edge singing with defiance, the sound sharp enough to slice through despair. His stance is steady, yet when Gwen's cry carries across the battlefield, her figure kneeling over the fallen, her tears mingling with the storm, his gaze falters, his heart torn between crown and love. Merlin stands apart, yet bound more deeply than either. The crystal of time throbs in his grasp, its light unraveling the weave of existence, threads of past, present, and yet to come spilling like rivers of fire into his vision. He smells blood thick as iron, hears thunder crack with the sound of bones breaking, feels the sigil on his hand burning into marrow. Visions devour him. Morgana upon a throne of ash, her crown of shadows glinting with triumph. Arthur cradled by death's embrace, his blade fallen, his legacy drowned. Camelot no more than whispers fading into wind. The relic whispers its demand, merciless and unrelenting. A price must be paid. Either sever the chain of destiny by shattering the crystal and tearing apart the fabric of time, or preserve the order of fate and forsake the ones he loves. His breath shudders. His soul fractures beneath the weight of choice. Arthur's shout pierces the storm, raw with both command and fear. "Merlin!" Gwen's cry follows, trembling, breaking against the rain. Her voice carries love and despair in equal measure, a plea to save what cannot be saved. Morgana's laughter rises above them, dark as a dirge, echoing across the corpses of dreams. The storm itself seems to still, holding its breath as though the heavens await his judgment. Merlin lifts the crystal high. Its glow spills across pools of rain, each reflection a broken mirror, one showing victory, another ruin, another an emptiness beyond comprehension. The light burns his skin, sears into his very bones, and he knows that whichever path he takes will scar the world forever. His eyes close, not in surrender, but in terrible resolve. The storm roars once more, then falls silent. For a heartbeat, there is nothing. No clash, no cry, no breath. Only silence vast enough to swallow kingdoms whole. And in that silence, the world fractures. Whether into salvation or damnation, none yet can tell. But the ravens already rise from the towers of Camelot, circling black against a hollow sky, bearing witness that destiny has turned its final page.